Christian McCaffrey, I don't know, he's Mr. Everything. He does everything, man. He's tough, he's gritty.
When the ball's in his hands, anything is possible. It's capable of a touchdown.
The stuff that he does, it can't be taught. It's in his blood.
All-pro receiver, basically, to go along with it.
Easily the best back, top to bottom in the league.
An MVP candidate and an Offensive Player of the Year candidate.
Time to get you caught up on your latest news and notes around the NFL. And we begin things out west where the injury woes continue to build for the San Francisco 49ers. First, Christian McCaffrey will plan to see a specialist in Germany about his lingering Achilles tendonitis issue. McCaffrey has already missed the first 3 games of the season and isn't eligible to come off the IR until week 6.
More news on the CMC front. Now official. The 49ers fear that it is a season-ending PCL injury for Christian McCaffrey. Ligament injury in that knee, as we saw him take that contact to the turf and then non-contact to the ground, thus could end an injury-plagued season for the star back in San Francisco.
Yo, what is everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Breaker Sports. It's your boy Dom, and we're going to jump right into things here today. Now, today, we are talking about none other than Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey has been one of the most dynamic backs of the NFL over the past really 10 years. Ever since being drafted to the Carolina Panthers, he has made his mark on the modern NFL rushing game. And I mean, he has 2 top 5 finishes for MVP, something that no other back has done in that time frame, and something that we haven't really seen replicated. Obviously, last year we see Saquon go for 2,000 yards and have an amazing season. We also have Derrick Henry on the other side of things. Constantly probably should have been in MVP talks when he was with the Titans, but until Christian McCaffrey's 2019 season, neither of those guys could even put their name towards the MVP award, which is typically and kind of has evolved into really a QB-based award. It's almost become the best QB award or the most valuable QB award of the year. And that's really been the conversation around the MVP award in the NFL. But McCaffrey and some of these other backs that I just named have been some of the few that have kind of thrown some dents at that. Obviously, defensive players are still struggling to kind of make their mark on that. But until Christian McCaffrey's 2019 season with the Carolina Panthers, in which he was by far and away the best running back in the league and was talked about as the MVP for a majority of that season, this just wasn't a thing. He obviously went for 1,300 yards that year, went for 15 touchdowns on the ground, on top of 1,000 yards receiving and another 4 touchdowns through the air, which is why he was able to put himself in that conversation for MVP, almost going for 2,500 all-purpose yards. But he still didn't win it. He still was not good enough to win it. Yet the next year, we then saw Derrick Henry put his name in the hat for MVP. The following year, we saw Jonathan Taylor have one of the best seasons for a running back and put his name in the hat for MVP. And as things may have it, just a couple years ago, after being traded to the 49ers, McCaffrey was able to replicate that type of success again. He was able to put up 21 total touchdowns in the season with 1,400 rushing yards, nearly 1,500, and on top of that, 700 receiving yards, which was something that we didn't think that we were going to be able to see out of him a second time. Obviously, everybody thought that he would do fantastic going to the Niners, and in the year prior, in 2022, when he was traded to the Niners, they saw lots of success in the short amount of time that they did have him. Right, not having him for the full season, only having him there for 11 games. But that first full season that he was able to play with the Niners, he was on top of the league, pretty much renowned as the best player in the NFL. Obviously, there were some injury issues, the quarterback issues. We end up seeing a lot of kind of disastrous injuries leading to the downfall of that 49ers team. But then the next year comes up, and that was supposed to be the Niners year. 2024, McCaffrey was supposed to be healthy. They were supposed to have the receivers good to go. Their defense was as good as anyone in the league. Brock Purdy was locked down. Everything was looking like it was going to be Niners all the way. In fact, I don't remember what the betting odds were, but I'm fairly confident to say that the Niners were top 3 in betting odds for the Super Bowl just that last year. And it kind of all fell apart. Prior to the season, we got reports, very prior to the season, not months ahead, but weeks really ahead of the season, we got reports that McCaffrey was struggling with some tendonitis. And then that kind of progressed into he's not going to be able to practice, he's not going to be able to play. And then a few weeks later, he's flying across the country, unbeknownst to most of us as fans, and is getting, or not even across the country, across the world, is getting, a specialist from Germany to look at things. Now everybody's wondering what could be wrong with McCaffrey. Eventually, a few weeks later, they seem to kind of get, the injury situation figured out for the most part. He gets back on the field and he has a couple solid games, right? He's not the McCaffrey that we're necessarily used to, but in a couple games, he's averaging about 50 yards per game. He's not necessarily, carrying the ball at the clip that he was the year prior. You can tell there's some injury stuff, but you're hoping that he'll play himself into form. Well, he plays 4 games, and in that 4th game, he goes down with an injury, and an injury that he would not come back from. He has a PCL injury. He's out for the remainder of the year. The Niners end up not doing too well, and they don't have the season that they were supposed to have. You see the Eagles go on to win the Super Bowl with a new top running back in the NFL in Saquon Barkley after leaving the New York Giants, and it almost felt like the Niners were in the past. In 1 year, they went from betting odds to be the top of the league. They went from just an injury away from making the Super Bowl, and it all crumbled. It all crumbled down, and they weren't able to do it. They weren't able to beat the Chiefs a couple years ago, and it seemingly has spiraled since then. Obviously, that was kind of the season that McCaffrey had that MVP level season, but again, due to some key injuries in the Super Bowl, due to some other things, it just wasn't their year. And it felt like it had kind of happened to the Niners multiple years in a row where they were just that close to winning it all, but they couldn't quite get it done. So after, a full year basically of not having McCaffrey, we kind of are coming into this season not necessarily having the highest expectations of them, but as the offseason kind of went along, they did lose a couple pieces here or there, but McCaffrey's going to be back. Brock Purdy's progressed. Ayuk's going to be out for a little bit, but the receiving core, even without Debo, looks to be a pretty solid receiving core coming off of last year. You have Fred Warner still leading that defense. They make some additions in free agency and through the draft that should help their run game. And all of a sudden, as the offseason kind of went on, we started to expect a team that, this year would start to really compete and kind of get back to form where they were. Maybe this would kind of be a stepping stone year into next year, but the biggest difference maker would really be McCaffrey. And unbeknownst to most of us, yet again, like last year, the same type of thing happened. Just yesterday or the day before, McCaffrey was reported to have some calf injury. That only progressed, and now it looks like he might not even play in the opening game for the 49ers. And the question is, where did it all go wrong? For a back that has finished top 5 in the MVP multiple times in his career, for a back that only 2 years ago was considered to be the best player in the NFL, how is he forgotten? How is this team not what it was supposed to be? And that's the biggest question. I mean, he really is the what if of this generation because he has played like no other back has when he's on the field, and he almost brought back the rushing game to the modern NFL, an NFL that was highly shifting towards the pass game, between Derrick Henry, between Jonathan Taylor, and obviously Saquon Barkley last season. And the reason I keep bringing up those 4 guys is those are the 4 guys that have finished top 5 in MVP over the last really 6-7 years and have kind of almost revolutionized the position in a new way. I think Derrick Henry is kind of stand apart from the others, but the others, because Derrick Henry's not much of a passing threat, but Saquon, he can catch the ball out of backfield and do things. Obviously, that's what Christian McCaffrey is known for. Jonathan Taylor has that ability, and they all have that. We can get you 4 yards on every play, and then 5 plays later, we're going to just bust it open and go get 70, 80 yards and a touchdown. And it's sad to see the guy that really kind of almost revitalized the position in the modern NFL not be able to reap the rewards and the success of it. Obviously, I'm hoping that McCaffrey comes back this season and can do stuff, but it's definitely difficult. And if you look at it from a Niners fan perspective, obviously I'm a Broncos fan. Appreciate the support on the Broncos video, guys. But with that said, if you look at it from a Niners fan perspective, they had it all. They had the receivers, they had the defense, they finally got the quarterback, they had the O-line, they had the best player in the NFL, and they still weren't able to get it done. So you almost look at the rest of Christian McCaffrey's career as, will he be able to have another healthy season in him? Will he be able to do anything with the Niners? Will this Niners core ever go to what they did? Or are we going to look back in 10, 20 years at this Niners team before and after the addition of McCaffrey as one of the kind of biggest failures of this really decade of football, in which they could get to the mountain, but they could never climb to the top. They could never beat the best team. They could never beat the injuries. They could never secure the one Super Bowl that they were constantly after. And yeah, I don't know. Do you guys think that McCaffrey will end up coming back to form? Do you think he can still be an MVP? Or do you think really last year was a key indicator that this is the decline of one of the greatest running backs that we've seen of this generation? And outside of Saquon, are there other backs that can reap the rewards of what he brought along? Derrick Henry, he's over 30. Jonathan Taylor didn't have the same year last year, and he started to have some injury issues. So it almost does kind of lean back to the owner thing of paying running backs and such, of there's only going to be a few of these guys. And though the position looks to constantly be on the up, I mean, when we look at this last year's draft, there were a plethora of running backs, including Ashton Genty, who goes to the Raiders. They were drafted higher than expected and immediately given at least starting roles on their teams. We just saw Martin Hampton. He struggled a little bit in his first game, but the Chargers end up beating the Chiefs in the opener for them in Brazil, and he wasn't even the first back taken. So it does feel like the running back position has kind of revitalized itself, and I think in a large part due to McCaffrey's success. But I do think that there's a real case scenario in which 4 or 5 years from now, it's a running back by committee kind of style going on in the NFL, in which the running back is maybe more important than it was a year or two ago, but in which backs are really being kind of cycled through the draft. You get them, you have them for 4 or 5 years, and that was seemingly the way for quite a while there. And some of these guys like McCaffrey have kind of broken that mold, but due to their lack of really top-end success of being able to win Super Bowls, and really Saquon being the only proven one that a team was able to kind of build around their offense and everything to go all the way, is it going to kind of revert to how things were and destroy what the running back position has evolved into? With all that said, I do appreciate y'all watching. Make sure you guys drop a like and subscribe for more. Over 99% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel, so if you guys do enjoy, I would appreciate it very much. And who is your guys' favorite running back in the NFL today? Honestly, it's one of the positions that's super hard for me to pick, as it's a position that I think easily as fans we can tie ourselves to. McCaffrey's pretty cool. Obviously, he is from Colorado, so I have to root for him, and I'm hoping he can come back from injury. Saquon obviously had a phenomenal year last year, but for me, honestly, it comes down between two guys, and I'm hoping that RJ Harvey can throw himself in this list after this season. But Jonathan Taylor, I've been a big fan of since coming out of Wisconsin, and I'm hoping that we can see him kind of do what he did again a few years ago in the next couple of years and put himself in the MVP conversation as a running back. And then Javonte Williams, man. Javonte Williams was a dog and unfortunately had some injury issues with the Broncos, but it was cool to see what he did on opening night for the Cowboys.